Hi everyone, what's up? Chelsea fans, I hope you're all feeling good. This is Xavier Mbuyamba, and you're listening to the Blue Day podcast. Enjoy. Chelsea!
Fellow Chelsea supporters, here at the Blue Day podcast, we are thrilled to have this individual on the podcast today. He is a man who made 103 appearances for the club, scoring 5 goals. He was part of the Chelsea side that won promotion to the First Division in 1989. Here is Clive Wilson. Clive, welcome to the Blue Day podcast. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you, Keith. Looking forward to it.
Brilliant. Fantastic. Clive, I'll start off this interview, as I have done with all the others. I want to take you back all the way to the beginning of your professional career and even before that. Who influenced you to become a footballer?
Oh, God. The first person that I kind of watched or admired growing up was probably Steve Highway. Steve Highway and Brian Hall, who were playing for Liverpool at the time. Just for the way they played, not for anything, nothing other than that. But then I end up supporting Liverpool through that. But I've got to say, my first influence as such as remembering the name was Clyde Best, because his name was like not too far away from mine, and he was a black man like myself. So he was one of the very first people I kind of recognized as a footballer. But in terms of a role model or someone who I wanted to be, when very young it was, as I said, Brian Hall, Steve Highway. But later on, it became Liam Brady and Glenn Hoddle were my idols.
Okay, as you sort of grow up to the point of school and the possibility of becoming a professional footballer, who was sort of that person or persons that guided you to say you can make it as a professional footballer? You know, you should sort of maybe do this and see where it leads you.
When I was maybe 12, 13, playing for a local side in Manchester called the Eagles. We were at that time labelled as Crystal Palace's juniors up the north. Wore the Crystal Palace kit. And I had a manager called Ted Davis who used to scout for Crystal Palace, and he always encouraged obviously players in the team to try to make it to become footballers. And obviously with his influence, he could maybe open one or two doors for us. But the irony is he didn't get me to Man City. Somebody else spotted me and asked me to go.
Okay, what position was you sort of predominantly as a youngster? Was you always sort of on that left-hand side, whether it was left back or left mid, or was there another position?
No, I was always left midfield. So we call it left wing or left inside forward, one of the two. I only ever started playing left back once I got into the pro game.
Okay, we might talk about that later in sort of at your time at Chelsea, but I want to take you back as well to March 1987. Do you remember that well?
I remember. I think I can remember the year, but the event you're gonna remind me. I'm getting old, Keith.
Well, not an event as such, but at the time you was playing for Manchester City at this moment in time, and the club received an offer from Chelsea for...
Oh, right. Yes, no, I remember. Now I do remember that. Yeah.
What was your thoughts at the time of this offer made by Chelsea? Was you sort of perhaps sort of a little bit dismissive, or did the club, Manchester City, I should say, were they sort of looking to maybe let you go, or was it more of your decision?
No, the irony of that, again, irony of this is, only 6 weeks earlier, I'd signed a new contract, a 2-year contract at City. So you kind of think that I'm going to be there for at least the next season, at least. But I always remember Jimmy Frizzell, who was manager at the time, called me into his office, and I remember his words saying to me, "Chelsea have made an offer for you, which we can't turn down." I mean, as I think about it now, what he was saying was, "Chelsea have made an offer for you. We want the money, so you've got to go," right, sort of thing. But it was back then. I was thinking it's the first time I had that. Back then there was, of course, there's no agents as such. I had no idea about what happens on a transfer, so it was a bit of a shock to me saying, "Well, somebody wants to buy you. What happens now?" So I remember speaking with Neil McNabb, who was a player in the team, and he kind of gave me a few things that I needed to do or ask for when I went to Chelsea. But I truly went there totally in the dark about transfers and what happens.
The fee, I believe, when I was doing my research, was around £250,000. But part of the was it part of the deal that you went back to Manchester City on loan for the rest of the season?
Yeah. I think that the deal was pending that. Chelsea said, Sid said, "Yeah, you can have him," but we want him to come back to play for City for the rest of the season in the hope to stay, because City were then in a relegation fight. I guess they were hoping that my presence could have helped them stay up.
Was you happy with that decision?
I didn't even give it any. I don't really think I gave it any thought, because in the days that would have been, I would have just been playing for Chelsea between March and for the 2 months, because that March was a transfer deadline, transfer deadline time, and I would have been playing for Chelsea in the 2 months. And looking back again, I think, I didn't think it was a good or bad thing. It just meant that I was going to Chelsea for next season. So, suppose what it did for Chelsea was then get my services should anybody else want to buy me in the summer.
The manager at Chelsea who brought you to the club was John Holland. What were your thoughts on John at the time when you arrived at Chelsea?
A really decent, a really nice fella. Obviously, I knew about him from his playing days. He was a Chelsea player. He'd been at Arsenal as well, and I know he'd done quite well. I wasn't sure. He was such a nice fella, and I don't want to be cliched, because don't sound too cliched going, "Oh, he was too nice to be a manager," because you can be nice. You just got to earn the respect of the players, and he was just a very nice fella. I just don't think he commanded enough respect from the players to have been a successful one, a good successful manager.
We had Steve Wicks on the podcast a few weeks ago now, and he mentioned at this particular period there was quite a few cliques in the squad, and the squad harmony wasn't as strong as what it should be. Did you sort of see that as well? And what sort of stories could you sort of tell us that of potential sort of cliques in the squad, or people perhaps not getting along with others?
No, that Wicks is very correct in that, because I remember coming here, and I was coming to Chelsea, and I didn't. There was no cliques when I was at City. Everybody got on, and after about two or 3 months, I realised, there's a change here. We had one group of players living Hemel Hempstead way, and then they had another set of players living in Camberley, Surrey, and the paths never crossed, as in other than playing together. If the Hemel people had a get together, they would invite just the people from there, and if the Camberley lot got together, they would invite the people from there. Fortunately or unfortunately for me, I was living in London, so I kind of caught in the middle. So I got invites to both camps whenever they were doing whatever their plans were. But as you said before, it wasn't harmonious. It was two different camps, and because of that, I don't know if that led to that season, the first season there. That was the season that we got relegated, and it was a lot of, not so much infighting, but there wasn't enough harmony.
Do you think obviously, again, hindsight being a wonderful thing, do you think that if there was a more harmonious dressing room, then perhaps the squad would have been more unified and the results would have been there a bit more? And so Chelsea wouldn't have been in that position of a league playoff, which we will discuss later on?
But possibly, because they had that team was, played squad was a decent squad back then, and me, myself, Tony DeVigo, and Kevin Wilson joined at the same time, and you would have thought that I think the thought process was that we could have pushed them up the league and kept Chelsea at the top of the league rather than the bottom, but it just wasn't to be.
Well, let's talk about that season. You made your debut for the club on the opening day of the 1987-88 season. It was 2-1 win against Sheffield Wednesday. Do you have any particular memories of that game, whether the Chelsea supporters or the actual stadium itself?
Do you know, I've got to be honest and say I don't remember. I thought it was against Forest, right? But you said Sheffield Wednesday. It was a 2-1 home win.
You might be right. Let me just double check. No, it was against Sheffield Wednesday, 15th of August, 1987.
Right, okay. No, to be honest, I don't remember who ends up scoring the goals that day.
Oh, right. Now you're testing me. Let me just go through my notes.
I'm trying to
the Chelsea goal scorers that day were Kerry Dixon and Gordon Jury. Gordon Jury scored a penalty.
Right. Okay. No, I don't remember it as standing out in my memory bank, but I do remember. I can think of me being quite nervous making my debut because I'd never played never been outside of Manchester other than I never lived outside of Manchester, should I say? And it was a bit of a little bit of a culture shock coming to London for me. Not in the sense that football's the same wherever you go. It was just the off the field stuff, and I don't know if that affected the other two lads in the same way because Tony was from Villa and Kevin came from Ipswich. I want to say, if not Derby, maybe Derby. So yeah, I don't think the harmony in the squad wasn't as it should be, not as you would expect, not as I expected it to be because I'd never experienced this before.
Mm. Kevin came from Ipswich. He came in that summer. It didn't take you long for you to score your first goal for the club. It was against Portsmouth. That must have been a bit of a huge confidence boost for you, arriving at a new club and getting on the score sheet already for your new team.
Yeah, very much so. I wasn't a prolific goal scorer. I tried to make more than I scored. But yeah, it would always be nice to get off and score goals pretty early in your career. So that wasn't too bad. But I should have scored a few more. I should have scored a lot more in the time I was there.
In regards to your position as a left wing inside forward, what was sort of the main tactical instructions that you was given? Did you think that coaches sort of saw you as like a goal scoring winger, or did they more see you as the guy to make the goals for the strikers to score? The
second one, more like a wing, like not so much a stand and deliver winger they used to call. So you stand out on the wing, get the ball, you beat the fullback, you get the ball in, right? More of that type of winger back then. That's what you were expected to do. But I don't think in my time at Chelsea, I know that in my time at Chelsea, I didn't really play consistently well enough to warrant having a permanent place in the side.
Now, at this moment, we're going back sort of August of 87. At this moment, everything looks rosy. However, obviously, we've mentioned at the top of the show, the stats this season will be remembered for the wrong reasons, as the club were relegated from the First Division for a league playoff when we played Middlesbrough.
Yeah.
Again, spoken to Steve Wicks, and in fact, Kevin Wilson on this. We spoke about the game against Charlton, that it was finished 1-1, and Chelsea had so many chances to score, and it was at that point where if Chelsea did win the game, they wouldn't have been in this position in the first place. After the final whistle against Middlesbrough for this league playoff, what was going through your mind at this point?
Are you talking about the Middlesbrough game or the Charlton game?
Sorry, well, go for both.
Okay, so the Charlton game, we got, I can remember that game, missed an awful lot of chances that game, and thought, well, at least we get another bite of the cherry, right? We get another, and we were playing the team from a division lower over 2 legs. We think, we're confident that we would have won. We could have got the job done. History says that wasn't the case.
Was there any part of you that felt that you wanted to leave the club to stay in the first division, or was you in fact happy to stay at Chelsea?
No part of me. I was actually more than disappointed that 2 years running, I'd taken the team down. Right? So I'd taken Man City, had gone down the year before, went to Chelsea expecting to be on the up, and the next season, another side I'm in went down. So it wasn't the best of times for me.
Just before that, John Hollins was relieved of his duties in the March, with Bobby Campbell taking over. We've obviously mentioned about John Hollins. It's from sort of people that I've spoken to, as well as yourself today. He seemed too nice to be the coach of Chelsea Football Club. But what did you make of that decision of him leaving with Bobby Campbell taking over?
If my memory serves me right, I'm sure Bobby Campbell came in a kind of advisory role, coaching role to kind of help John, because the team was struggling at the time, and I think results didn't improve well enough, and John unfortunately got the sack, and Bobby just took over from there. As he was more or less sitting on John's shoulder once John had gone. But to be fair with Bobby, when he came in, he kind of shook. And we went down that season, but he shook the team up and brought in a few players, and I'm sure we'll go on to talk about what happens the next season. But yeah, he was there, right place, right time.
What was Bobby Campbell like as a coach?
It's very difficult to say what they were like, because I don't think I truly got coached in the position that I was playing until later on in my career. I think a lot of what I did there, what I've done there, was played off the cuff. And if it happens, it happens, and if it didn't, it didn't. There was no real strategies to the way we play, or what position I should play. All I knew that I was the left winger. I had to beat the fullback, and I had to help out the defenders. But didn't say like where you need to be when the opposition got the ball, where you need to be when someone else has got, when your own team has got the ball. But Bobby wasn't. He was a decent coach. I just didn't think he coached me well enough in the position that I was in.
Right, I see. One player I did want to talk to you about, because you did form a good partnership with him. I've spoken to a few Chelsea fans that were season ticket holders in the late 80s, and I was telling them, so I'm speaking to you, and they mentioned about the playing relationship, so to speak, that you had with Tony Dorigo. What was Tony like as a player for the listeners that perhaps maybe didn't see him in a Chelsea shirt?
Oh, an exceptionally good player, and an electrifying pace he had. And it came by default, because most people see me as a left back, but I was brought to Chelsea as a wide midfield player. So all that happened was when Tony went past me, which he often did, right, got on the gallops down the wing, I would just sit in for him until he got back, and then get back into midfield. So it became a bit of a partnership, knowing that if one's gone, the other one can fill in. So yeah, but it was an exceptional player. Goes on to play for England and then wins the first division title with Leeds. So he's an exceptional player.
That following season, we are in the second division, but we win promotion back to the top flight. What was the confidence like throughout that summer going into that season? And in fact, maybe sort of going towards in that season, what was the confidence like in that team? Was there sort of more of a squad harmony, but in fact, was there more of a desire from individuals and the team to sort of get Chelsea back where they basically belong?
Yeah, definitely, because we knew that the season before we seriously underperformed, and I think Bobby Campbell that season brings in Graham Roberts and Peter Nicholas, and them two galvanised the team and got it together, got it harmonious. But saying that, I do think the start of the season, we didn't start the season very well. I think after 6 games, we were near the bottom of the league. Yeah, and I think we went on one hell of a run before that. But I got to say a story I heard later on from Gary Penrice. That same season, we went to Exeter University for pre-season, and where we were training, Watford were there at the time, and we went. When we go to the training ground, Watford are already there. They were training. We came there, we trained, and we left. And when we left, they were still training. So the Watford players were complaining to Steve Harrison, said that, oh, look, that's not fair. Chelsea came here after us and finished before us. And Steve Harrison said, oh, let's see where they are at the end of the season. Well, that season we won the league with, I think, 99 points. So it just proves that we had how good a squad we had, how good a team we had as well. So it was quite pleasing.
You mentioned Peter Nicholas and Graham Roberts. How much of an influence were they in the changing rooms, on the pitch when you guys were playing? Because, again, people sort of that I've spoken to have said that they stood out on the pitch. You can tell who the leaders were and the fact that they sort of demanded respect. Could you sort of describe to the listeners what kind of sort of leaders were they at Chelsea?
They were very vocal, both of them, but also led by example, right? And weren't afraid to say what they thought, or say what they saw. Tell you what they think. If you weren't doing it, they tell you. But they were quite happy to accept criticism from themselves, from us, to them. So yeah, they were leaders. Robbo in particular, Graham Roberts in particular, was a hell of a leader. So as I said, Bobby Campbell brought them two in, and they did galvanise the team and bring it together in the way that you'd expect.
Just on a sidetrack, do you think that sort of leadership is partly missing in today's game? Because when you sort of talk about players of that ilk that were leaders on and off the pitch, do you sort of see this modern game having leaders of that caliber? And, do you think there is a difference in what defines a leader from players in the 80s and 90s to now?
Definitely, the definition of what you consider a leader today is not somebody who like a Dave Mackay or Graham Roberts or a Roy Keane or Brian Robson, who roll their sleeves up and go ploughing into tackles to prove that they're here and they want to be noticed. I think the modern day captain or leaders lead by example and do it in a less conspicuous way, in a less way. They're not as demonstrative as the leaders were back in our days, but that don't make one right and one wrong.
That's a fair enough answer. I think, as you say, sort of the common sort of discussion now with certain supporters is about this team. I'm not talking about Chelsea in particular, but these big clubs don't have leaders. We don't have a Keane, we don't have a Vieira or Tony Adams anymore, or John Terry. Referring to Chelsea, we don't have these sort of leaders. But I think that it sort of does give a good point that the style of leaders has completely changed from, for example, when you was playing to what it is now. You're not going to get somebody holding somebody up by the collar in the changing rooms, basically saying, what the bloody hell was that, sort of thing. You're not going to get that anymore. So I think that is important, that people should sort of consider that, when people say, there's no leaders in the squad. Well, there's a different type
of leader. Yeah. Because I think people always think, the public generally think, if he's a leader, if he's the captain, he's the one that's barking at everybody. He's telling everybody that what they need to do and what they can and cannot do. But that's not the modern day footballer, or the modern day captain. Yes, there's exceptions to that rule, but generally speaking, it's a bit more friendly, should I say.
People mention about Cesar Azpilicueta, who's the Chelsea captain, and a lot of when fans used to go, and I was at the Matthew Harding lower, near enough every home game, people would say, Azpilicueta's not captain material. He's not shouting. He's not sort of, being a John Terry. But again, you don't know what goes on behind the scenes. You don't know what goes on half-time, full-time, day after. He could potentially be that sort of way inclined. We don't know. But as you say, there's different leaders for different eras. And I think that now, as you say, someone like a Roy Keane, I don't think would be ideal in this day and age, especially with social media as well, sort of being quite a big thing, because as soon as somebody, talks down to a particular player, whether he could be a young academy product making his debut, and somebody like that, addresses him down, then you could have the
backlash from
you could have
media.
A backlash. Yeah, exactly.
But going back to
no, absolutely.
The people only question the captaincy when the team are not doing so well. People are not questioning him now. The team are doing quite well. They're not asking how he's the captain, but he's not very vocal. So you only get, like anything, you only get these questions being thrown at you when the team's not as successful as the fans would like them to be. I.e., Arsenal are a prime example.
Yes, absolutely. Going back to that 88-89 season, one game in particular, which, again, I was doing research and I've spoken to a few fans and they said, mentioned this particular game, was the 18th of March, 1989, Man City against Chelsea. Chelsea win by 3-2. It was labelled as, the two teams that should get promoted from the second division to the first. Chelsea win at Main Road. What was the feeling like sort of going towards the end of the season just before it was confirmed? Was there a sense of, yes, this could eventually, this will be our season? When did sort of like the wheels start turning whereby there was a feeling of, this is going to be our season? Was it particularly at Main Road, or was it maybe before that?
If I remember rightly, that happened to be a Saturday morning game. And that's an absolute weird time for the game to kick off. I don't know why it kicked off on Saturday morning, and it might have been something like 10:30, 11 o'clock. It was really weird time. But over that season, I think, as I said earlier, we didn't win for the first 6 games, or we only won 1 out of our first 6, something like that. And we were near the bottom of the table than we were at the top. And I think we put together a run after that of maybe a few losses in 20 odd games, and that catapulted us up the league and into first position. Yeah, and we were vying with City, and we realised that if we win that game there at Main Road, then the end with the winning post wouldn't be too far away as long as we kept our focus. So yeah, it was a bit of a nerve-wracking experience, but we managed to pull it off. And I can remember, again, Tony DeRigo running away from the halfway line, scoring one. I don't know if he scores the goal or he squares it, someone else scores it. But I was trying to keep up with him, but didn't have a chance.
As you say, Tony DeRigo did have pace, but we end up winning that game 3-2. How delighted was you personally when the club won promotion back? It was all confirmed. Chelsea were back in the first division. What were your thoughts?
Oh, back to the promised land. As I said previously, that the previous 2 seasons had taken 2 teams down. So it was a feather in the cap and a great achievement to bring one back, because I'd got promotion with City a few years earlier, so I knew the feeling. In fact, I think we got promoted the same season that Chelsea got promoted early. So it was good to repair the damage that I'd done the year before.
That entire season, you made 38 appearances for the club. That included league and cup. Did you sort of sense that, you're getting a great run in the side, the fans are sort of behind the team now? Was there a sort of a sense of, it can't get any better than this? Or was you sort of striving for more? Was you sort of striving to sort of rank up the appearances and try and sort of stay at Chelsea for a longer period?
Well, definitely, I was trying to. I wasn't totally happy with the game time I was getting. I don't know what the statistics say, but I didn't think I played as many games as 38 in that season. If that's what I played, but a number of them would have been substitute appearances. So,
I've got just to sort of point out, I have got the numbers. The 87-88, your first season, you made 41 appearances. 5 were sub. The 88-89 season, you made 38 appearances. 4 were sub. Okay. We're going to talk about the 89-90, which was your last season. You only made 24 appearances and 9 were sub.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So no, I'm thinking I didn't feel I still didn't feel I was an established player in the team, despite playing all of those games. I always felt that I was 1 or 2 games away from not being in the team, and I think part of that was the next season would prove that to be the case. But I didn't. I'm quite surprised that I played that many games and that many sub appearances. So yeah, but it was a great time, and I was really just trying to establish myself in the team. Although I didn't think I was a permanent fixture, like one of the first names on the team sheet.
So this next season, the 89-90 season, Chelsea are back in the first division. What were sort of your hopes going in for the season? And do you remember what sort of the actual team, what was Bobby Campbell sort of saying about the objectives for that season?
I think our main objective was just to establish ourselves back in the first division. Obviously, having come up from from Division Div 2 that year, and for me personally, it was just going to be a case of trying to establish. I think my contract was up at the end of that season, so it was trying to get myself into the team on a more regular basis to earn another contract.
One game I would like to sort of mention that you were part of, and it's something that sort of I say now probably goes down in Chelsea folklore, but not many people sort of would either remember it or like to remember it. The League Cup encounter against Scarborough over 2 legs. Do you remember much about that particular occasion?
Don't we get beat, don't we?
We do, yes.
We get beat. I'm pretty sure that's. I'm not sure if it's Scarborough game. I might be thinking. Do we? I don't know if you've got the fixture list there. Do we play Spurs in between the 2 games?
Spurs we played on the 16th of September. The Scarborough we played on the 19th of September.
Okay, right. Okay, so you know why that is so pivotal. Tony DeRigo was injured for the Spurs game, and I played left back that game. Played really well. We beat Spurs 4-1.
That's right. Yes.
White Hart Lane, yeah. And I said that's probably one of my best games for Chelsea, if not my best game for Chelsea. I played at left back, and I remember saying, if I'm left out the team, because Tony would I think he would be back for the next game. If I'm left out the team, then there's no point in me staying at this club after next season, at the end of this season. And so as I said, it picked the side, and I was left out. I remember thinking, well, I think was we leading from the first leg? I don't even remember. But anyway, that was so pivotal in my career, my Chelsea career, because after that I realised that it didn't really matter how well I played. I was always going to be the fall guy.
It was 1-1 from the first leg, and then we travelled up to Scarborough. We lost 3-2.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that's what I said. I just remember having I remember Bobby Campbell naming the side, and I thought, oh yeah, I've got to be playing. And when he named Tony as the left back, I just had a sinking feeling and realised that after that, my career at Chelsea was probably over.
Just sort of established that you was in and out of the side that season.
Yeah.
And you mentioned obviously that game against Scarborough being that sort of light bulb moment for you in regards to your career as well. Was there any other moments between, the game against Scarborough in October till, eventually when we will discuss it, your departure? Was there any other moments that was quite frustrating for you where, as you say, you was on the bench, more than what you wanted to be?
Oh, there was a number of occasions. I think even it got to the stage where Bobby Campbell would play when Tony was injured. He would play Gareth Hall at left back and I'd not play. And I just got really frustrated over the his lack of. He didn't give me any reasons behind it. Not that he. I guess I'm saying now, he should have given me a reason why he didn't think I should be playing. But I can say that I did go to see him, and I said to him, look, why if the team lose, am I always the one who loses his place? And he said, well, maybe you're not good enough. These were his words, maybe not good enough. So I said, well, okay, I'll accept that. But if I'm not good enough, can you sell me? And he went, no, I'm not selling you. So I said, well, I'm not good enough to be in the team, but I'm too good to be sold. How does that work? How does that work? And he just said, look, I'm not going to sell you. We'll just see. And so for that, I just ended up playing out the season. Fortunately, it turned out to be a good season for Chelsea. I think we finished fifth that year.
We did finish fifth that year, yes.
Finished fifth that year, and had there been Europe back then, we'd have made it into Europe, and maybe it might have been a reason to stay. But no, for me, that, as I said, after the Spurs and the Scunthorpe, I didn't think it was Scunthorpe. I thought it was Plymouth. But yeah, you're right. Of course you're right, Scunthorpe. And that's what I'm saying. I realised that it was time for me to move on.
A pivotal sort of day for Chelsea was the Full Members Cup final in 1990. We played Middlesbrough, bit ironic. We end up winning the game 1-0. Tony Dorigo scored a fantastic goal, but you was left out of the squad. Was it to do with injury, or was it to do with more team selection? You're not in the squad.
I was. I think in the days of two subs as well. I can't remember if it's David Lee and somebody else, because I think I've got a picture of that somewhere. But yeah, it wasn't to do with anything other than he just didn't think I was good enough to be playing.
Personally, how frustrating was that for you, knowing that, a day out at Wembley, Chelsea got a chance to win something, albeit it is the Full Members Cup, but what was sort of going through your mind at that point? Was it a case of, this is point of no return, I have to leave, or was there other sort of bits floated in your mind?
No, I think I would have been, I guess, like most of footballers, it's a bit of a hollow victory, hollow medal if you get a medal and you don't take part in. I don't take part in the game. For me personally, that's what I would think. So it would be great to taking part in the game, but I realised that wasn't going to be the case. So I just have to accept my fate, and that's what I did.
So go to the summer of 1990. Albeit I was only a few months old, so I definitely didn't remember. But you left the club to join Queen's Park Rangers. How did that move come about for you?
Yeah, again, a funny thing. I came on at Chelsea. We played QPR earlier in that season, and we were 2-0 down. I might be 2-0 down when I came on. And as I came on, I think Mark Falco scored for Chelsea to make it 3-0 volley. But I played in midfield, and I played really well that day. And I think I was up against Ray Wilkins, and I think it was Peter Reid, right? And I played well that day, and we got back into the game, but not well enough to win it. But we got back into the game, and I think because of that performance there, QPR kept their eye on me. I don't know if they knew that my contract was up or they found out the contract was up, but I'd always known. I didn't know that they would have been interested, but I'd always known that it was time for me to leave at the end of that season. Didn't know where I was going to go, but sometimes that's what happened. Teams pick you because you play well against them.
Of course, that wasn't the last time you'd put on a Chelsea shirt, because, of course, years sort of have gone by, and say recently because of the coronavirus, but a few years ago, you was part of the Chelsea vet side.
Yes.
Yeah. Tell us about that experience, because that hasn't been mentioned too much on the podcast before. To just sort of describe to myself and the listeners, what was that occasion like, and in fact, sort of tell us how did that move come about, whereby you was part of that and you was able to play with either some of your ex-teammates or players that you've obviously played against with other clubs.
Yeah, I think I can't remember if it was when I first got into it. I think Clive Walker was running it. And I can't remember how it came about that they wanted me to play, but I remember getting a phone call and saying, "Well, this Chelsea old boys got a charity game against some team. Would you like to play it?" And of course I said yes. But it was always a great occasion to meet up with players you haven't seen. Like some of them I haven't seen from first 3 years since 1990, and I was seeing these like in the 2000s, so 10, 15 years later. So and some of them obviously you recognise, like most of us, we'd all put on a bit of weight, and you realise, how did we manage to run around the pitch looking like that? But you know that he didn't look like that when he played. But it was a really good experience. We had some really good charity games and a couple of good tours. I remember a tour we went on to Germany to play some indoor football. Yeah, it was really good, really, really good and enjoyable.
Brilliant. Do you have any sort of fun stories of, when you've done like tournaments, or maybe one of the players sort of done something a bit maybe they shouldn't have done because of, as you say, you guys have got older and maybe the fitness isn't there as such?
Not. There's no maybe about it. Right? Definitely not there. No, I guess I do. I just remember, I can't even remember who it was. We played a game and someone pulled their hamstring within minutes of the game starting, or seconds of the game starting. I can't even think who it was. Well, I can't think of it. But things like, because you take it for, we tend to take it for granted that we were fit, we were supple one time, and that's always going to be the case. So when you get older, you don't warm up as well as you should, and think, you can just go out there and kick a ball about. But Mother Nature tells you quickly that no, you got to prepare just as well when you're old as you do when you're young.
Absolutely. Clive, let's talk about the modern day football now. I've mentioned this to a few of my past guests, and some of them have been sort of pro VAR, some of them have been con. Your thoughts on it? Of course, as we're recording on the Monday, the day before, we had, or the weekend before, excuse me, or even going back to the Friday and the Saturday, so many crazy moments in VAR that affected the Premier League of that weekend. What's your thoughts on this great technology?
I always thought it would be very good. It's a bit like when they first introduced goal line technology. That was fine for just seeing if the ball's over the line or not. So now we've introduced VAR and it's seen for decisions. My problem with it is how far are we taking it? Because there's steps now over whether someone's head is offside, someone's arm, their fingers. Where do we go? And the main issue with it was last season, which they addressed last season. I thought that the controversial decisions were always being made by Stockley Park, so it exonerated the ref from any blame. This year, which is better for me, the refs are at least going over and looking at the monitor and then making the decision. My question will be, there'll be 99% of us will say, "Oh, that's not a foul," or that is a foul, and he will give the opposite. He'll give the opposite decision, and you'll think, "Well, what did he see that we didn't see?" And I just don't know if that VAR is going to be good for the game long term or bad for the game long term. But what I do think is it's very elitist, because before VAR came around, and I don't want to make it sound like it's football was the same wherever you go. So the referee made the decision, and you either liked it or you didn't. Right now, you're saying, well, that if you can say that if I was playing in League Two, VAR is non-existent. So why is it not in League Two but only in the top division? Is there only because there's more money riding on it in the top division, but the pressures on the managers are just the same.
It is interesting, sort of, when you say it like that, because I look at competitions like the FA Cup. They have it in the later rounds, they have it sort of in Premier League rounds, but then if you're a big club and you go to somewhere that's in League One and League Two and they don't have it, and you're so used to having VAR there as sort of like, call it a protection, I personally think that's wrong to sort of have a piece of software in a competition that doesn't cover every team that's in the competition.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I said it's a bit elitist, because what we're then saying is that because the Premiership and the Premiership has the most money in it, then it's more important to the Premiership than it is to the man in League Two, which it's not, because he's going to lose whichever way the results go. He's going to lose his job based on that result or based on that decision that cost him the result. So I don't know if there's a kind of solution to it, a type of solution, but at the minute it's just available to the elite clubs or to the top clubs, in top division clubs, and I don't personally think that's fair for the integrity of the game. I think it should be available to everyone, but it can't be because of the cost.
Would you keep it then, if that's the case?
I would keep it, if only for decisions of, is it a goal, is it a foul, isn't a foul, is it a penalty, is it not a penalty? I'd keep it for that, because I guess it's here to stay now. It's here, but I wouldn't. The offside rules, I think that's the one that I'd like to see change for, and even the handball one, where I think I saw one the other day. His back was turned and it hits his arm and he gives a penalty. Well, that can't be intentional, because he's looking the other way. I mean, the one that springs to mind is they gave one against Eric Dyer earlier in the season when Newcastle played Spurs, and Eric Dyer was looking the opposite way. So, and you can't just give it for that. And I don't think there should be any ambiguity about that. If he's not looking at the ball, he can't be saying, well, he's intentionally handballed it because he's not looking, even if it's hit him. But how are we going to change that? Because the rules are, if the ball hits you on the hand in the penalty box, they're going to give a penalty.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it doesn't matter if I'm 2 yards away or 20 yards away.
Yeah.
I just don't. Which they said all throughout this weekend. The problem we've got is there's no consistency with it. And
exactly.
If we could get to a point where there's consistency, and you know that he gave that decision he gave a penalty for it last week, but this week he's not. You're gonna question it. You're gonna say, well, why was it good enough? And even if you look at yesterday, the Burnley Newcastle game, I think it's Tarkowski kicks attempt to kick it.
Yes.
Longstaff puts his head down, and the referee would anywhere else on the pitch, he was going to give that as a free kick, but because it's in the penalty box, he's not going to give it.
Yes,
that's the craziness of it. But then we can't keep going down. We won't be able to go down the pub and say, well, the referee was shite today because it wasn't the referee. Somebody else made the decision. Right?
Just a couple of more questions, Clive, before I do let you go. Your thoughts on Chelsea this season? It hasn't been a boring one for Chelsea this season, hasn't it? It's been a bit of sort of a whirlwind season for them, of course. What's been your thoughts on Chelsea throughout this campaign?
I thought at the start of the season that they would mount and pardon the pun, not Mason, I'm taking in, they would mount a serious challenge on the Premiership, having finished fourth last year.
Yes.
Having finished fourth last year, buying Werner, Havertz, I can't remember, Ziyech?
Hakim Ziyech, yeah.
Having bought them, I thought, they're going to mount a bigger challenge on the league this year. And it started off okay, but they just seem to have lost their way. And I just thought, for me, I didn't think that. Frankly, he was consistent. He was consistent with his selections, but wasn't when things were going wrong. Couldn't find a plan B, so to speak.
Yes.
So I thought I was surprised. I was very surprised at the timing of it. Nothing ever really surprises you in football, but it was just so much the timing of the decision. And as it turns out, it's proved to be a very good decision because I think since he's come, they've lost one game.
That's
possibly.
right. Yep.
Yeah. So it's proving that. But the question you've got to ask yourself is with the same players, he's getting a different tune out of the same players. Why?
Yes.
I know people will look at it and go, well, the players weren't playing for Frank, but they were. I just don't think he had he got the team, the balance of the team and the structure of the team correct, whereas Tuchel seems to have come in and at once sorted out the defence, and now he's moving on up the pitch, and he played on Saturday with a kind of a not a recognised number 9. So giving the opposition something to think about, something different to think about, and I think that's part of it is keeping the opposition guessing as to what are we going to play, who's going to play, and where they're going to play. But I do think that they've got an even better chance of Champions League semis. So at this moment, it's not looking too bad, despite all the trauma and turmoil that you associate with Chelsea.
Yeah, it's. I think it was a case of if this was, a crazy season whereby we don't normally get rid of managers midway through the season, then I think there would be a little bit more of an issue. But every other season, we seem to get rid of managers midway through the season. So, it's just.
It's a successful policy. They get rid of the manager, and the team then goes on to win something.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
yeah.
Well, hopefully this season something does sort of happen for Chelsea and in fact Thomas Tuchel. But Clive, last question: how do you look back on your career at Chelsea?
I would use the word roller coaster. So because if you look at, because first season I go down, the next season I come up, and then we were still going up, so to speak, when I left. But then it would have been plateau, finishing 5th. But if I'm brutally honest about it, it wasn't as successful a time as I would have liked.
Any regrets?
No regrets, because it's a life experience. You can't always have success, and the thing about life is you've got to learn from the disappointments, and that's what you got to do: learn and accept the disappointments, and be able to bounce back from them. So no regrets whatsoever.
Fantastic. Clive, it has been an absolute pleasure having you on the Blue Day podcast. I have absolutely enjoyed having you here. It's been good to see you, and hopefully we'll see you maybe back at the bridge someday when the full crowds are back.
Yeah, pretty soon. And we'll be back. It'll be nice to hear that Liquidator again.
Yes, absolutely. Clive, thank you very much, and we'll speak soon.
All right, take care, Keith. Thanks for the call.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.